Musicians have been covering other artists' songs since, well, songs existed. Standards, spirituals, and folk songs were all meant to be interpreted, while the early history of rock and blues saw song swapping with abandon. And sometimes, when another artist takes on an established song, something magical happens. The new version ends up being far greater than the original could have ever hoped to be. With that in mind, the Great Pop Culture Debate wants to discuss, what is the best cover song of all time? Whitney and Dolly hoped all that life would treat me kind, but it's really been like a kind bar. Sticky, tough to swallow, and filled with nuts. I'm your host, Eric Rezsnyak. Please welcome this week's panelists, who are just putting their own spin on what panelists before them have already done. She'll break your throne and cut your hero. It's Andrea Guerrero.
Hallelujah, Eric.
Hallelujah. And ain't no mountain high enough to keep this proud Mary from joining today's debate. It's Derek Mekita.
You can't see it, but I'm giving you some real deep shoulder action right now.
That's all I want. It's all I want is deep shoulder action on my proud Marys. And finally, he's just wild about Kimmy, and Kimmy is wild about he. It's Jonny Minogue.
Oh, she just keeps this kid in America hanging on.
Mm-hmm. So, how does this work? Since this is a mini-sode, there was no public poll. Our panelists thought long and hard about great cover songs in pop music history, and they picked their individual top 12s. We compared notes, moved forward with ones that had multiple votes, and then pushed up a few of our own personal favorites. We added those to a top 16. Now we argue about it and insult each other, all for your amusement. Want to play along at home? You can go to greatpopculturedebate.com and find the polls and brackets tab. There you'll find the listener bracket for this and every episode. Make a copy for yourself. That's super important. Actually make a copy. Fill it out and see if your picks line up with ours. So before we start, I want to ask my panelists, what were some of the cover songs that you suggested that were upset did not make the bracket? And I want to start alphabetically with Andrea.
So my first song that I have is Hurt, originally by Nine Inch Nails, covered by Johnny Cash. I think most people have heard this version. I remember when it first came out, it kind of took the internet by storm. Everyone was talking about it, like, oh my God, Johnny Cash covered Nine Inch Nails, how amazing. And I remember reading that Trent Reznor was a little hesitant to let him cover the song because he thought it was going to be like cheesy. But obviously, as we know it today, it is just heartbreaking and haunting and beautiful. And it's just such a well done cover. And honestly, like, Johnny Cash can do no wrong. I don't know why anyone would think that something that he would do would be cheesy. It's Johnny Cash. And the other one that I have is Baby One More Time, originally performed by Britney Spears, covered by Fountains of Wayne. I love the story for Baby One More Time. It was written by Max Martin, who's a Swedish pop songwriter. He's written probably most of like the most famous pop songs from the last like 30 years. And it got passed around. I think it was originally written for like TLC or something like that. And then Christina tried it, and then Britney finally picked it up. But it eventually came through the Fountains of Wayne desk at some point as well. And they just do this kind of like slow crooning sad cover of it, and it's just really fun to listen to compared to the Britney Spears version. If you haven't listened to it, go listen to it. It's out on Spotify. It's wonderful.
And actually, we have a playlist specifically for this episode that we created on Spotify, which has the original versions and the cover versions right next to one another. When possible, there are a couple of situations where the originals were not available, but we will make sure to put a link to that in the episode on our website, greatpopculturedebate.com, and we'll pass it around the internet like the party bottoms that we are. So thank you, Andrea. I appreciate that. Derek, you're up next.
Yes. Speaking of party bottoms, I'm going to come at you with two really gay songs.
Yes.
Ray of Light, which was originally a song called Sephirin by the folk duo Curtis Muldoon. A lot of people don't know this was a cover. Madonna and William Orbit brought this obscure song to new life as the title track of her 1998 album. And as a gay boy in high school, I can't emphasize enough the impact that this song and its album had on my life. It's Madonna doing some of her best work, and honestly, it'll always have a special place in my heart.
Yeah, and I really don't think, and it's one of several songs that you'll hear on this episode, folks, that people were aware it was a cover, certainly not at the time, and I don't think people even now realize, because when I was like, "You're sure that's a cover, Derek?" And he's like, "Yeah, go listen to it." And it's clearly a cover.
Yeah, it's confusing because it has a different title.
Yeah.
Madonna's version has a different title, but it is, when you listen to the lyrics, it is very clearly a cover.
Yeah.
The other song is MacArthur Park, which was originally recorded by OG Dumbledore actor Richard Harris.
Yes.
Complete with signature 60s harpsichord sound, really groovy. This was actually a hit for Harris, but I would argue that Donna Summer's cover as a disco anthem is the definitive version. It gives such emotion, and among her many hits, it really holds its own.
Oh, for sure. And I feel like the Harris version lasts like 29 minutes. It just keeps going. It lasts longer than his entire screen time as Dumbledore in the first two movies. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you for that, Derek. How about you, Johnny? What did you have?
My first pick is You Got the Love, which was originally done by The Source and Candy Staton. That was done by Florence and the Machine. So You Got the Love was originally a dance track that really came to its own in the late 90s when it was remixed during the kind of height of the rave era. But then it got kind of new life at the end of Sex and the City. It was the last song they ever played in Sex and the City, also tied into the new, Just Like That TV series. But Florence and the Machine, for their first album, they ended up doing a recording of the remix version of that song, and it's so like beautiful. The vocals are soaring. She takes it to a place out of the club and kind of makes it ethereal and celestial, but doesn't lose any of that power that it had as a dance track. I absolutely love it. I wouldn't say it's obscure. It's just kind of, there's so many other songs on that track and so many other Florence songs that it kind of gets overlooked, but I absolutely love it. The other one is Higher Love, which was originally done by Steve Winwood and Chaka Khan in 1986, and then was redone by James Vincent McMorrow. So the original version is very 1980s Motown-inspired pop, but the James Vincent McMorrow version is sad. It is just him with this kind of almost falsetto voice, longing for this person. And when I first heard it, I love the original version so much. And we're going to be talking about Chaka Khan later on today. But
Chaka Khan. That's going to happen this entire episode, folks. I'm going to break right now. Expect that. Go on, Johnny.
I'm completely on board with that. But it takes it to a place which I never necessarily ever thought it would ever go. It is not, it just has none of that bombast. It has none of that kind of like amazing vocals. And it's just this one guy and like the piano. And I couldn't believe when it first started. I will say when I do hear it, I still put in the kind of trumpets in the back up, but I still love it as what it is. And it's not as well known, but I think it really should be.
Am I crazy, or isn't there a version of Higher Love that's Whitney Houston with Kygo as well?
Yes, that was released a couple of years ago. Although she did that in 1990. That was a kind of a B-side to the I'm Your Baby Tonight era. Miss Misery McCrae told me about that. The legend Miss Misery McCrae first told me about that song many years before.
And I think one thing I discovered while putting together this episode, I don't know if the rest of you did, but there are a couple artists that I've loved who have done so many cover songs, and I didn't really make that recollection. You'll see as we go along. There's one in particular, like, her entire career is ripping off this poor other woman. So brace yourself for that. My two picks that did not make it to the bracket. First is Venus by Bananarama, covering Shocking Blue. This one I very nearly pushed to the Sweet 16, but we had a couple other gems from the 80s that were covering 60s songs, and I wanted to make sure that we diversified the overall grouping. But this version is just so much better than the original. Sorry. Like, the original has a cool, funky jam to it, but this one just has so much energy and a groove, and it's just unabashedly sexual in a way that I find really exciting. And then the other one, I was torn with, because it's No More I Love Yous by Annie Lennox, which is originally done by The Lover Speaks. And I say that I'm torn because I've never heard the original. I don't know, frankly, if her version is that much better, but it is from her entire cover album, Medusa, which in my opinion is one of the best albums of the 90s. It's nothing but cover songs. All of them are incredible. And this song in particular, like it shouldn't have been a hit, and it was a huge hit, and I absolutely love it. It showcases all of Lennox's strengths, and it was ethereal and powerful and coquettish, and I just love the whole thing. And it's a cover, so what it did make me realize is I didn't push this one to the Sweet 16 because, again, I don't know what the original sounded like. I can't find it even now. But I do want to do an entire episode devoted to best cover albums, because there are some killer ones out there. So if you're listening and you're hearing, yeah, I have an idea, please send it to us at our social media. So with that out of the way, let's get into the actual debates. We start off with 2 decisive victories, as Aretha Franklin's Respect made sure that I Think We're Alone Now by Tiffany really was alone in the vote department, and Cyndi Lauper's Girls Just Want to Have Fun, which, yes, really is a cover song, folks, took a very literal approach to the Fugees' cover of Roberta Flack's Killing Me Softly. But Jonny, you did say that you wanted to say something about Miss Flack?
Yes, I wanted to just talk about Killing Me Softly when it came out with the Fugees, and their version is absolutely, amazing, and it brought Roberta Flack in for a new generation. Fun story about that is that she was in a department store in the mid-90s, had known that the actual song was being re-recorded, and she thought it was hers just being remixed, and then found out that it wasn't even hers, and she was like, amazing, I need to meet them, I want to work with them. And she did, and she recorded with them, well, at least did live recordings with them, but the MTV Movie Awards, she was with them. It's a cool bringing together of 2 different genres and generations together, but it's unfortunate that you can't go through, but it's a great little side thing about Roberta.
Yeah, and I would say, you kind of touched upon this a little bit, Andrea, with the Johnny Cash 9 Inch Nail thing. That's one of the cool things about cover songs, is it's sometimes used as a way of passing on a great song from generation to generation, and also bringing past generations kind of into prominence again, where, making them fresh and new for a whole new group of people that otherwise would have no idea who they are. Like the 90s, Johnny Cash, where was Johnny Cash in the 80s? Like he was country, right?
Right. Yeah. Like outlaw country.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so if you weren't listening to that, and then suddenly in the 90s, he was a superstar, like a pop culture superstar.
Mm-hmm. And then when he passed away, he even got more fandom after that. And I think that's really when that Hurt cover took off too.
Yeah. So it is fascinating to see how these songs kind of not just take on a life of their own, but they also give the artists who originally performed them a spotlight too. So moving on, 3/4 of the panel wants to sing the praises of Jeff Buckley's Hallelujah, originally by Leonard Cohen, while Derek wants to run away. He wants to get away, and instead vote for Soft Cell's Tainted Love, originally by Gloria Jones. Andrea, why should Hallelujah go to the 5th rounds? Derek, take my tears, but that's not nearly all, and make us fall for Tainted Love. And I'm going to have Derek go first.
So not only is this an iconic 80s classic, it's actually a twofer. It's giving us double Motown covers of both Tainted Love and Where Did Our Love Go? Now, I will grant you that the Supremes version of the latter song is still the definitive version, but its inclusion on this track by Soft Cell just makes this song like that much better. Soft Cell actually came to this cover in a circuitous way after the song had made its way from like an obscure Motown flop to UK Northern Soul hit. And then they put their own kind of unique synth twist on it, which really helped propel a second British invasion in the early 80s. This was a smash hit in the UK and arguably even bigger hit in the US, spending a then record-breaking 43 weeks atop Billboard's Hot 100.
What? Is that true?
Yeah. It also ranked number 5 on VH1's 100 Greatest One-Hit Wonders of the 80s. So this has real cultural staying power. And sidebar, if you're interested in the best one-hit wonders of the 70s and 80s, we've already got an episode for you. Go check it out.
Yeah, we do. And we'll do 90s and 2000s at some point. So thank you, Derek. Good argument. Andrea, what have you got for us for Hallelujah?
First for Tainted Love, like I do love that song. I mean, who doesn't, obviously, but I just can't separate it in my head from the Coneheads either. Like every time I hear that song, all I see is Dan Aykroyd in his Conehead outfit, and I can't handle it.
Yeah, that's a boner killer right there.
Yes, but cultural cachet. See what I'm saying?
True, very true. But for Hallelujah, I mean, obviously Leonard Cohen is an amazing songwriter and lyricist, and this song is just lyrically so complex and layered. And it's one of those songs that everyone's heard, and they've probably heard the cover version, but know that it's a cover version. It's kind of one of those rare things where I feel like most people know that it is a cover version. But just lyrically, I love how textured and complex it is, just with the religious aspects and broken love. There's like really subtle sexual innuendos in it. And the original version, there's kind of this like synthy undertone to it, which it sounds great, but I just love the way that Jeff Buckley really strips it down to this haunting acoustic version. So you're really getting the lyrics and you're not being distracted by some of the other stuff that's going on musically. And every time I hear the song, I'm just like, I'm moved every time. Like something inside me is moving. And it's just a beautiful song that I can't get over.
It is a evocative song, especially the Buckley version. Jonny, where are you on this one?
So I ended up going with Hallelujah at the end, but honestly, when you mentioned that the twofer, and that was really what pushed me over to Hallelujah the first time. It's like I actually really love the second version of the Soft Cell Tainted Love. I actually like the Where Did Love Go part of it. I think it's part of just growing up with the Supremes and Motown as just part of my cultural zeitgeist. I can't like ever, anytime I hear something from the Supremes or Diana Ross, I'm like, yes, I love it. But I think overall, as a kind of change, like of a change agent kind of song, I just loved that the Jeff Buckley version of Hallelujah. It really kind of set the tone for the other covers that came after it. There was Leonard Cohen's version, there's Jeff Buckley's version, and all the ones post Jeff Buckley's version. So I think it really was the kind of change to where people were going to go and reinvent that song is kind of goes from the Jeff Buckley branch less than the Leonard Cohen branch.
Yeah, and I think we'll talk, because I'm also going to go for Hallelujah. I love Soft Cell. I love Tainted Love. If it was up against virtually anything else, I probably would have voted for it, Derek. It's just, the other thing we didn't talk about is Hallelujah, specifically the Buckley version, is used in pop culture constantly.
Yeah.
Constantly.
It's in Shrek, for crying out loud.
It is. I don't think it's the Buckley version in Shrek, though. I think it's the Wainwright version. I could be wrong.
It's the Wainwright version.
But regardless, this song, talk about omnipresent cultural cachet, right? Almost to the point where it's like, oh, it's an emotional moment. Here's Hallelujah. But for those reasons, I had to advance it. And I think we'll talk more. I think it was a great point, Jonny, that at this point, I do believe that people are working more off the Buckley version than the original by Cohen. I think you can hear it in the redos. But
absolutely.
We will be advancing that, talking about it in round 2. Meanwhile, another 75% split, as the majority of the panel wants to drink Magnolia wine with Lady Marmalade from the Moulin Rouge tarts. But Jonny is asking us to look around at the leaves, which are brown, and consider the merits of the Bangles' Hazy Shade of Winter, originally by Simon and Garfunkel. I'll explain why Marmalade is better than Mocha Chocolata. Jonny, please demand that time looks at what has become of me and champion Winter. I'll have Jonny go first.
Okay, so I think one of the things with this song is that people really don't remember this song as much overall as part of the as the Bangles' total discography. It gets overshadowed by things like Walk Like an Egyptian and Manic Monday. However, I feel like it really stands out as one of their best songs. They were prolific musicians. They were groundbreakers. They were a group of women who were playing their own music. They were playing their own instruments. Like it was still a bit of a novelty in 1987 when they recorded this. Additionally, that set them apart from some of the other groups. They didn't really at first have a quote lead singer. Susanna Hoffs was the kind of de facto lead singer, but unlike with the other groups, they had multiple singers. The Peterson sisters, Vicky and Debbie, as well as Michael Steele, they all sang their own parts. In Hazy Shade of Winter, Vicky Peterson ended up being that really the lead for 2/3 of the song. They had been doing this for a number of years, at least going back to like 1983. So it wasn't like a brand new song when they were posed to record it for Less Than Zero, the Andrew McCarthy film about drugs in LA in 1987, which is ultimately very 80s. It still kind of lives a little too much of that era, but the song kind of takes away from that. It is unlike the original version, which has that very kind of New York folk sound that Simon Garfunkel was well known for. It adds that extra layer of rock and guitars. It's a lot more haunting when you add in the keyboards and the drums. It really takes it to a place which is it's current. It doesn't even really tie in a lot to the original as much when you hear this version. They did take out a little bit of the bridge, which talks about a vodka and lime, which I thought was interesting because it's like you're doing this for a movie about drugs and alcohol. But in any event, it probably translated better to 1980s pop radio. I think they really took it to some place that was different for them because they were so influenced by the 60s, but sometimes you could hear it a little too much in their music of the 80s. When you listen to Manic Monday and going down to Liverpool, you can hear the direct Beatles references and a lot of that 60s mod music. This one didn't do that. It was so different from anything that they'd ever done. And then lastly, where it goes is that it ended up like with the Jeff Buckley version of Hallelujah, it created a whole bunch of cover songs after that based on their version, not the Simon Garfunkel version. For example, Gerard Way and the Umbrella Academy, that was one of their main songs in that show. If you've ever listened to their soundtrack, it is straight up cover of the Bangles version. I don't feel like it gets as much love. It was a #1 hit back in 1988. So it wasn't that it was some sort of like, B-side to anything. It was a hit, and the video was loud. It fit the mood of the movie, and I think it doesn't get much love, but it has a lot of great strengths, and it still stands out. I love listening to it even now.
Listen, I love this one too, and like when the drum beat comes in and those guitars launch in places that I am taken there. It is so good. It just launches, but it's up against Lady Marmalade, and that's the problem. In that, to me, both of these versions are iconic, right? And I would argue that you are correct that the Hazy Shade of Winter by the Bangles is kind of looked at as one of their secondary songs, and frankly, it's kind of looked to me as a secondary Simon Garfunkel too. It's not like one of their primary hits; it's a secondary song.
Right.
For LaBelle, which it's LaBelle, not Patti LaBelle, right? Yes, she's the lead of LaBelle, but this was LaBelle. This is like LaBelle's signature song. And this one is weird because it is a quartet put together specifically for a movie soundtrack. So let's just get that out of the way, right? This is not like it's an actual group. It's not like they're a unified presence. This was a stunt, essentially, for a movie. But what a goddamn stunt it was. How effective was this? Like, 3/4 of this panel are homosexual men, and the other quarter of the panel was, how old were you when Moulin Rouge came out, Andrea?
What year was it?
I'm going to say 99. Does that sound right?
2001.
2001, okay.
Do you really want to know the answer to that question?
I do, and then I'm going to scream.
11.
11. But, like, can you remember when this came out and you were like, oh what is happening?
I remember singing the song on the playground with all of my friends. Like, it was highly inappropriate. It was wonderful.
Exactly. But, like, this was a cultural moment when this song came out for Moulin Rouge. I'm going to argue that the original by LaBelle is really great. Don't get me wrong. The B3 organ and the bass line intro, it sucks you in. Those vocals are so sensual. But you cannot deny how dated that version of the song is. It sounds like it's 50 years old. It sounded like it was 50 years old when it was only 20 years old. Whereas I'm not going to tell you that the Moulin Rouge version is timeless. It's not. It's very early 2000s, late 90s, but it still sounds great even today. So in case you don't know, and I don't know how you would not, the quartet in this is Christina Aguilera, Lil Kim, Maya, and Pink, and they were all kind of on their individual ascents in kind of pop stardom. And I just feel that it provides a vocal relay race between the four of them that the original doesn't. That one's just basically Patti LaBelle doing Patti LaBelle and the others backing her up, right? But this is Maya passing it to Pink, Pink passing it to Lil Kim for a fire rap verse, which you did not have early in kind of the 90s. And then her giving it to Christina to bring it all home, and it just builds and builds to this ecstatic explosion at the end. And I feel like the original kind of stays very much in its lane. Andrea, you wanted to say something?
I just wanted to add, too, that along with those four amazing women, Missy Elliott also
Yes.
is featured on the track. We cannot forget about Missy.
Rottweiler baby. Like it was like a super group that exists. It was like the We Are the World
Yes.
for like R&B pop singers of the 1990s, or excuse me, early 2000s. So like on a purely song level, also, I'm just always going to defer to whichever one finds a classy way to talk about prostitutes and which teaches me how to proposition someone in a foreign language, because I'm a lifelong learner. What can I say? So that's my argument. And Andrea, where are you on this one?
Lady Marmalade.
And Derek?
Definitely Lady Marmalade. But it was like a moment in time, this song.
It really kind of was. Like, it was a whole ass moment. So I think we are advancing Marmalade. Nothing against Hazy Shade of Winter whatsoever. Next up, we have the panel evenly split between Valerie by Amy Winehouse and Mark Ronson, originally by the Zootons, and The Power of Love by Celine Dion, originally performed by Jennifer Rush. Andrea, why don't you try to get the others to come over to Valerie? Johnny, don't whisper in the morning. Tell us passionately why Power of Love should advance. And I'm going to start with Andrea.
I don't know if anyone's listened to the original version of Valerie by the Zootons.
Yes.
I don't know if anyone knows who the Zootons are. I had no idea who the Zootons were before I heard this song. But this is another one of those songs that I feel like people don't know as a cover. And it's just so synonymous with Amy Winehouse outside of Rehab and Back to Black. And I really think that this is one of those songs that kind of pushed her over the edge of being the drugged out English woman.
Which we loved her for.
Right. We loved her for that. But that's kind of what she was known for on the state side for a really long time. People kind of made fun of her. She was a little bit of a cultural joke. And I think Valerie just really shows her skills as a vocalist and as a singer. Like, she's very soulful. She's like a big Sinatra fan. And I just think that this song did her so much justice. And I think Mark Ronson saw that in her as well, and helped to bring that side of her out to the US and made her a more respectable artist on this side of the pond, which she should have been before all of that. But, sometimes it just takes a little bit longer with the Americans. But I just think that this song, just really showcases her talents. And I don't want it to go under the radar.
Yeah, and what a loss. God, can you imagine what would have happened? Imagine 3 more Amy Winehouse albums. Think of how amazing that would have been.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, with that being said, Johnny, talk to us about The Power of Love by the greatest singer in the world, Celine Dion.
Oh, she is my lady. I'm not her man, though. So that's not going to happen. Sorry. Although I'm hoping she's swinging the other way with some of her new boys. 25 years younger than her. I hope.
God
that's the way
bless.
she's going.
Get it, Celine. She's put in the time. She's put in the work.
She's put in her time. She's in Vegas now. She can do whatever hell she wants. So I mean, I think. All right. So with The Power of Love, that was another one. I didn't really know Jennifer Rush's music at all. I actually had to do a little research on her. If you see some pictures of her, it's a lot of sparkly cardigans, which, don't get me wrong, I love a good sparkly cardigan, but I didn't really know her work. And I will say the version that was recorded isn't particularly musically much different than the original. Celine's has a little bit of change, but I think the difference is less than with the music than with the vocals. I mean, this is where Celine Dion really became the powerhouse that she was. And she had been doing songs in the adult contemporary Delilah set for a number of years.
The Delilah set.
You know what I'm talking about, the Delilah set.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So yeah, it's it's got those moments. Where do my heart beat now? And I think she was in Beauty and the Beast cover, great song. But again, she was just who's like, oh, who's this pretty singer that's singing about dancing teacups and things like that. Anyway, it didn't really do anything. It didn't propel her as much as it really should have. And even songs like If You Ask Me To, which is a Patti LaBelle cover, by the way. So bringing her back in. But what it really did was it was the power of her voice on the power of love. She was no longer just some sort of backup dancer or some sort of Quebecois novelty act. She showed that she could stand up there with Streisand and Midler. She brought together a voice that was anything else. It was a power ballad. It had to take an 80s power ballad to bring her into the 90s. And I think that's what it was. There was not a lot of power ballads in 1994 that really were transcending or going beyond that into pop culture at that point. It was grunge music. It was hip hop. It wasn't having these kind of chanteuses singing and belting out. And it really brought her into the American and really international spotlight. And I'm glad for this song. I have to say, I don't think it's necessarily overall the best song she's done. I think it's the most impactful song that she's done for her career. If it wasn't for this, she could still be back up in Montreal just singing mostly French songs and just occasionally throwing out an English song to gives to those people down in Toronto. I can't believe that it took to her version to actually get this song really any sort of recognition. It had been done by Air Supply, Laura Branigan, another one who does cover songs really well.
Loved Branigan, God.
She's so good. I miss her.
We need to do a Fallen Angels episode too. Like Laura Branigan, absolutely.
Oh yeah, I remember I was sitting in my car eating a bowl of honeydew when I found out she died, and I was like, no,
God.
I'm still triggered when I eat honeydew. But I will say, like, the reason why I couldn't talk about Valerie, some people who know me know I used to host karaoke, and Valerie is one of those songs I get done every single week at karaoke. Sometimes done well, but sometimes done by girls, Ashley with a GH, done a little too pitchy, who think that they're about to get discovered on a Wednesday night at a gay bar in Boston. Trust me, honey, they're not. So they're not coming to do Power of Love. So with that being said, that's where I land.
Derek, where are you on this one?
I'm with Celine on this one. I am a Celine stan, so I have to stay with my girl.
So I'm the decider here, which sucks. But I will say this. I think I might have initially voted for Valerie. But one of the things I mentioned earlier in the episode is that I discovered that there are certain artists that really are cover artists, right? Like they made their careers on cover songs. Not only did Celine have this one, but also in the mix, there was another cover of another song by Jennifer Rush that Celine did. And I'm like, who is Jennifer Rush? Celine completely single weight femaled her and took her career. Like, where is that Netflix show? Now, I say that, but you listen to those two versions back to back. Celine crushes her. Like, how difficult must it be to be Jennifer Rush, having your Chico's kind of day, and then you listen, you recorded these songs, and then you hear Celine Dion's version of it. Like, I would just fold in on myself and like cease to exist, because Jennifer Rush is a talented singer, don't get me wrong. But then like you listen to them back to back, and you can do that on the playlist we created for you. Holy shit. Like Celine just takes it. And there really, Jonny mentioned this in numerous different ways, that this was one of the songs that kind of propelled her. I think if you don't have this song, Beauty and the Beast, a couple others, you don't get her to Titanic and My Heart Will Go On, at which point it's over. It's game over. Celine Dion is the upper echelon for a solid decade plus. Because of all that, and because I do think she is quintessentially a cover artist at the end of the day. Celine's not writing her own music. She may be contributing, but she really is a cover artist. Even in her Vegas show, most of the songs that she's doing are cover songs. I think I'm going to give it to Celine here over Valerie. So I'm sorry, Andrea. I hope you don't feel betrayed.
I do, but that's okay.
Okay, I mean, it's just part of what I do.
Come over to the dark side, baby.
And I'm about to be betrayed because I am the lone standout who preferred Ain't No Mountain High Enough by Diana Ross, originally by Marvin Gaye and Tammy Terrell, to Proud Mary by Tina Turner, originally by Creedence Clearwater Revival. I know. I know you must follow the sun, wherever it leads, but I will not set mountain free without a fight. So Derek explained why we never, ever do anything nice and easy. And for Proud Mary, go.
That was a really good impression.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Well, it goes without saying that this was a huge hit for Creedence Clearwater Revival, and I will admit that their original recording is faultless. That said, Tina motherfucking Turner, man. She gives this track new life, some much needed soul, and a sweet mix of like the slow and fast tempos that nearly everybody on this podcast enjoys that will absolutely make you bop in your seat while driving. Is this the song that launched 1,000 karaoke careers? I'd argue yes. And interestingly enough, Tina's version was recorded only a few years after Creedence charted with it. But it is unquestionably one of Tina's most recognizable recordings, and I'd argue it wouldn't have the same cultural cachet that it does without her having recorded it. So do us all a favor and keep Proud Mary rolling on this river.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Like, listen, folks, this is a tough one. These are both amazing songs by amazing artists. Both of them could be top two, honestly, in this bracket, without question. They just happen to be up against one another. Yeah. I'm going to talk about Mountain, and this is a case where the cover significantly changes things from the original song in a really interesting way. So in the original, Marvin and Tammy are, it's the way I interpret it is it's a couple that has broken up, but they're supportive of one another. No matter if you need me, I will be there for you, blah, blah, blah. That's sweet and all, but yawn. Diana's version is literally a woman saying to her lover, you need to get the fuck out of here, and that's going to destroy me. But if that's what you need to succeed, I get it. Like, the pathos of this song. Like, it is amazing. And speaking of pathos, I kind of did it in the intro to this, but that spoken word section of this version, which isn't in the original at all, but it's so good. And even like a lot of the song is actually spoken word, which was kind of amazing for a radio hit in the 1960s. It vacillates between her just speaking very slowly and soulfully, and then just breaking out into these like wails of like pain and whatever the agony, I guess, like emotional tearing, right? And like we all know that Diana Ross is a legend, but I don't think we specifically talk about how majestic she is, and the delivery is so good in this song. Like it's unbelievable to me, taking nothing away from Tina and Proud Mary, which also in a very different way, but Diana just kills this. Mm-hmm. And so like I just have to say that like I understand why we would go with Proud Mary here. I don't think it's wrong, but I just had to at least argue for Ain't No Mountain, because anyone who listens to this podcast knows that I love a song that builds. And this song, like once you're getting into that last verse where she's just soaring and yelling and screaming, but it's still kind of weirdly positive. Like she wants him to get out for him and she's going to be okay. But like she's feeling her, she's in her feelings. It's a whole mood. God, I think it's amazing. So Andrea, where are you on this?
I'm sticking with Proud Mary. I just love the original version of Ain't No Mountain High Enough so much that I can't do it. I love Proud Mary, and I love that original version of the song. So sticking with Tina.
I don't blame you. And Johnny?
This was a 51-49 for me. It was so hard because Ain't No Mountain High Enough was actually the first one I picked when I submitted my list. I can see the flowing coat and just bouncing and like just you set me free. But it was and I'll get into this in other later brackets with Tina, but I had to go with Tina, but it was a real Sophie's choice on this one, and I ended up having to send Diana away.
I do not blame any of you at all. We will be advancing Tina Turner, but confidential to Diana Ross, just remember what I told you the day I set you free. So, all right. So we are again evenly split between Jimi Hendrix's All Along the Watchtower, originally by Bob Dylan, and I'm Every Woman by Whitney Houston, originally by Chaka Khan. Jonny explained why it's all in Whitney and why we should advance woman. I will argue that there must be some way out of here for Watchtower, but I'm going to have Jonny go first.
Okay. So I think we could have said this, like, this whole bracket could have been nothing but Whitney Houston songs, to be honest. And even this song, of well, many from the Bodyguard soundtrack, are just filled with great covers anyway, including track 9 from a certain Drag Race host who cannot stop bringing it up. Love you, Michelle. Anyway, so let's talk about why I decided with every woman. So let's just start from the beginning. So it brought that completely brand new intro, which was like a slowed down, kind of more intimate version of the first verse. And then she brings her soaring vocals, but they're a little bit intimate. So it's not like pounding you right away with her amazing voice, and she's restraining. And then it all kind of builds up into that beginning first verse. There's a bit of that dance pop, new jack swing vibe to it that takes the Chaka Khan classic into a new plane. Like, one thing that Whitney's version does is like turn up the dance beat, taking it out of Studio 54, where Chaka's original version kind of brings you to. And that was, again, a great version. But like you said with Lady Marmalade, it was dated. It sounded dated. And that was the difference, was 1978 to 1992. So we're talking about 14 years. That's it. But it sounded like it was a completely different generation. It takes out the disco trappings, but it doesn't lose any of that original groove. And you listen to I Am Every Woman now, it still has that same punch. It gets the floor packed. It gets moms at a wedding and crazy homosexuals all pumped up to dance to it. I think it draws a direct line from Chaka to TLC, who is in the video, who is the new artist of the day, with Whitney bridging them together. So it really is a collaborative effort. It still sounds great. It sets a lot of other covers from there. By other great artists. One of them is named Kaya Crystal. If you don't know Kaya Crystal, you should. She's the only other person besides Whitney who can actually do the song any sort of justice. So
fact. That is a fact.
I worked with her for years, and I got paid to hang out with her. One day you will be paid. You will be paying to see her. And then let's talk about the end of it. The self-referential Chaka. You can't get more meta than that. You're having a cover, mentioning the cover within the cover, and then having her mountain of hair and that huge bright smile of Chaka Khan in the video, just going, me? Oh, who, me? Who, me? So I'm going with I'm Every Woman every single time.
There's also another really amazing little button in that video I don't know if you're aware of, but among the people that are the backup singers, especially at the end, was Whitney's daughter, Bobby Christina. And if you listen to the ending of the song, she says, "My girl," because at that point, Bobby Christina is the lead voice on the backing vocal, and she was in the video. And it makes me even sadder because, of course, we know that tragedy, right? Like,
oh yeah,
it's both an incredibly joyful song and also like really bittersweet to listen to it now because of just the unbelievable tragedy that has followed that family. So with that being said, I'm going to talk about All Along the Watchtower. So I'm just going to get this right out of the way. I'm not a Bob Dylan fan as a singer. I think he's an extremely talented songwriter and lyricist. There's no question about that. But his original version of this song, I find it challenging to even make through. Like, honestly, his voice is just, there's something about it that curdles my ear. Also, frankly, true for another song on this list, but we'll get to that later. So, when it's great lyrics, as I was saying, it's kind of the Aretha Franklin reading Taylor Swift approach here. Great lyrics, beautiful lyrics. That's how I feel about Bob Dylan's original. But the Hendrix version is explosive. You know, if Dylan's constantly at a 3, Hendrix starts at a 6, and by the end, he's past 11. It's there's something about that's just deeply primal. You have those wailing drums that are just kind of building and building, like Warriors in Moria or something. And then you've got that just signature Hendrix guitar work that's just fire, and it drives and drives this song to this massive explosive finish. I wanted to make sure we had some rock representation on here because there have been a lot of really incredible rock covers. This to me is one of my all-time favorites. This is neither here nor there, but I'll bring it up. If you watched the 2000s era reboot of Battlestar Galactica, this song was used to spectacular effect in the show, where it was calling out to a group of characters who were linked in a way that they didn't realize they were linked. And there is something about it that almost veers into like the archetypal, and I just think it's so successful. And that's the Hendrix version. It is not true of the original by Dylan. It's just not. And I think there's something really to be said for the alchemy that goes into taking the rough kind of ingredients of an original and just turning it into something even more so broad and so wide-ranging you can hook in all these different areas. I think that's incredible. So with that being said, Derek, where are you on this?
I originally had I'm Everyone by Whitney Houston, but as some of you will recall, I am a disco purist. So I actually really like Chaka Khan's version better. And I was listening to All Along the Watchtower a little while ago, and it is giving me like Woodstock perfection somehow. And I'm going to switch my vote to
Wow.
Jimi Hendrix here.
Uh-oh, Johnny. It's an upset. What about you, Andrea?
I'll get you at.
I don't love either of these songs, and let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. All Along the Watchtower, regardless of what version I'm listening to, every time I hear, I am transported back to college in a hot-boxed basement with growy white dudes wanting to listen to this song while super stoned out of their minds, just talking about how amazing Bob Dylan is, how amazing the guitar is for Jimi Hendrix, and blah, blah, blah. I would rather eat glass at this point. And then I'm Every Woman, I just think of women's razor blades commercials every time. Like, it's just one of those songs that pops up in like every feminine product commercial.
But isn't that Venus though? Isn't that Venus?
That's true. It is Venus as well. But whenever you think of smooth, hairless legs, you are Every Woman. So I think I originally had All Along the Watchtower, but I'm going to flip to I'm Every Woman because I want to see Whitney v. Whitney later on here.
Okay, so here's how this works. In a mini-sode, when we don't have seeds, the tiebreaker is a round robin. So I would get the first one, and then it would pass to Andrea, then to Derek, then to Johnny. So I have the first tiebreaker, and I actually agree with Andrea because I also want Whitney v. Whitney. I need this in my life, so I'm going to switch my vote, even though I argued for All Along the Watchtower, to Whitney's I'm Every Woman, and also because Chaka Khan! I'm just going to do it. All right, so finally in round one last even split, this time between another Whitney classic, I Will Always Love You, originally by Dolly Parton, and Kim Wilde's You Keep Me Hanging On, originally by The Supremes. Andrea, be my bodyguard and defend Whitney at any cost. Derek, set Kim free by supporting Hanging On. And I'm going to have Andrea go first.
I won't spend too much time on this one just because I think we're going to have a lot of conversations on it down the road. But I'm thinking back to the best pizza topping minisode that we did. And we were talking about pepperoni. And we were like, well, it's pepperoni. Like, how do you not pick pepperoni? It's Whitney Houston, I Will Always Love You. Like, how do you not pick that song over everything else? It's just so ubiquitous, and it's wonderful, and it's big, and it's Whitney, and I don't know what else I can say about it right now. I have more for later on, but I don't want to waste it just yet.
That's right. You don't want to blow your load in round one. I completely understand that. Derek, talk about Kim Wilde and You Keep Me Hanging On.
Well, you know what? Now you've already set me up with this whole I want hot Whitney on Whitney action. So like whatever I say right now is completely superfluous. However, I'll say it anyway. This song is a #1 hit on Billboard's Top 100 twice. In 1966 with the original recording by the Supremes, and then once again in 1987 by Kim Wilde, which basically transformed a Motown classic into an 80s high-energy smash hit. The opening synths of this song are instantly recognizable. It is 80s perfection. And it does something I love, which you kind of alluded to before, which is introduce a new generation to an older song by making it their own. Is it the juggernaut that is I Will Always Love You? No, it's not. But I'm also of the opinion that Whitney has so many great covers that became hits for her. I'm throwing my weight behind Kim Wilde here. And I honestly, I dare you to not immediately bop your head when this comes on the radio while you're driving a car.
No, I mean, I can't accept that challenge because it's amazing. And it has not yet been a lip sync on Drag Race, right?
It was the actually infamous season 2 where Sister ended up lip syncing because Ginny Lemon walked right out
of UK. That's right.
UK,
and it was
season 2.
It was okay, but like this song should be an epic lip sync without question. It needs to be redone because it is fierce, honey. Like it is spectacular. With that being said, Johnny, where are you on this?
Oh my God. So speaking of that when in my early years, my drag persona, Miss DD7 Van Poppers, she wanted, this was one of the original songs that I wanted to do in drag. And because you know what it is? It takes that apocalyptic kind of minor key sound. It takes it away from the 60s kind of bopping around with Diana Ross in Motown. It's haunting. It's scary. It's 1984 in 1987. And it was a completely different version than anything that ever came from that. After that, I actually took off Venus to put this on because I go, this is a better bop than anything else. It's more memorable. And it's a song that, even though it wasn't hers originally, it's still lasts the test of time.
There's a desperation to her version that's not there in the Supremes version. Yeah. One thing I did, and I'm sorry, this is an aside, I know we're already running long, but we're also doing Best 80s Soundtrack for Season 5. It may already be out by the time you're listening to this one. I don't know the order yet. But one thing I realized while listening to all the 80s soundtracks is the amount of intense 60s and 50s nostalgia that was everywhere in 80s music. Like, everywhere. And I think you see it with like the Tiffany's, the Kim Wildes, the Whitneys, all covering these songs from the 60s, especially the Motown stuff. But I still do think, for me, I throw it to Whitney. So that would leave us 2-2 with Andrea as the tiebreaker. Andrea, which one are you going with?
Whitney v. Whitney. I'm staying with Whitney.
Whitney v. Whitney. All right, so that is it for round 1. We are going to take a quick break and creep through other podcast back catalogs so that we can steal their ideas, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to round 2 of our best cover song debate. While we were gone, Celine Dion re-recorded the entire first round, and honestly, it's so much better than what we initially put out. So before we get to round 2, let's discuss how listeners can go undercover and reach out to all of us on social media. Andrea, how can people reach you?
They can stalk me, twitter.com @DreSouffle.
Thank you. And Derek?
Twitter and Instagram @DRKMKT.
Okay. And how about Johnny?
I'm on everything. Jonny Minogue, one word, no H.
Great. And as for me, you should definitely follow @GreatPopCultureDebate on Instagram and @culture_debate on Twitter. But feel free to follow @Eric Rezsnyak on Instagram and Twitter. That's ERIC, REZ as in zebra, S as in snake, N as in Nancy, YAK. So moving on to the debates. First up, we have 2 songs that unanimously advanced in round 1. Aretha Franklin's Respect, originally by Otis Redding, and Cyndi Lauper's Girls Just Want to Have Fun, originally by Robert Hazard. Johnny, take care TCB of Respect. Derek, live your life right by supporting Girls Just Want to Have Fun. I'm going to have Johnny go first.
So the Korean Soul just made the absolute most iconic you can drink cover song. Yes. So and then this is another song growing up like in the 80s. I heard this because it was in a soul 60s song with parents who loved R&B and soul of the 60s. It was an 80s song for me. I heard it all my life. But let's break it down to why it's really so monumental. Like Otis Redding, Respect is great. It is so Otis Redding. It's got that same kind of raw vibe that is so quintessential of everything he does. But Aretha and her team decided to do an infectious reinterpretation of that song that it really made it to something that is way, way, way more than anything that Otis could have ever thought that he would have written or recorded. It really was collaborative. It was her, it was her sisters, and it was some of the other engineers. And let me just say, this song was recorded in one day. It was done one day, February 14th, 1967. That's it. So she really brought in that earnest and powerful demanding of the respect that she deserves. And before it, in the Otis Redding version, which was a little bit more of a domestic thing, it was more with Aretha, it was just respect all around. When she came home, she doesn't care who it is, husband, kid, anyone else in that house, you are going to respect her. Her sisters were her backup singers, and she did a lot of her work, backup work back in the day. So they did something as a family act, which didn't get billed as a family act. It was just Aretha, but because she had just that powerful overall voice that the Franklin sisters, even though they may not be known today, you still know those backup singers, you know those voices. And let's talk about why it's even better. Two things that she added in: R-E-S-P-E-C-T, find out what it means to me. R-E-S-P-E-C-T, take care, TCB. That was all of her sister Carolyn's idea. And TCB, taking care of business, that was a slang in the African American community back in the day about pleasing one's partner. If you didn't know that, that's what TCB is.
I did not know that. And for years, I had no idea what that line meant. Like, literally
take care,
years.
TCB. It's like, it was a little dirty, but it then was co-opted by Elvis, the co-opter of all co-opters, later on in the 70s, that was something he was doing, the TCB. And then sock it to me, sock it to me, sock it to me, sock it to me. Again, the Franklin sisters and the backup, that was something that they added in that was not in the original. That line became ubiquitous in pop culture. Think of Laughing. Richard Nixon said, sock it to me. Sock it to me. Sock it to me. that was something. It's like someone as square, the squarest of square people, Richard Nixon in 1968 said, sock it to me, because of this song. It became a civil rights anthem. It became a feminist anthem. It was in countless movies. I remember watching it as a little kid, and Mystic Pizza, Julie Roberts, Annabelle Gish, Lily Taylor were singing it in the jalopy truck of her boyfriend on the way to a girls' night out. It was in a million different things. To this day, it doesn't matter if you're 8 years old or 108. You can hear it. You can dance. Everyone. It crosses generations. It crosses races, sexualities, lifestyles. It is that ubiquitous. And it 2.5 minutes of just absolute pure musical amazement.
I'll make a confession. So I said I didn't know what that TCB meant. For years, I thought the line she was saying was take out TCP, and she was trying to spell rest, like basically like give me a break, which does not work, because those letters do not spell rest if you take out TC and P. But in my brain, that's what I thought that line was. Swear to God, that's true. Yeah, not great, but there you go. Thank you, Jonny, for that passionate argument. Derek, talk about Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
So I can't even believe this is a cover, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say a lot of you didn't know it was a cover either. I realize that literally dozens of other artists have covered it, but come on, there's really no version but Cindy's version. And I'd argue that had she not recorded it, we wouldn't even know this song at all. Her energy and her signature voice gives such life to this song. And, you know, in the early days of MTV, her 1983 music video also became an instant classic for the art form. It is also a feminist anthem. That said, I am actually going to throw my vote over to Respect, because I'd argue that Aretha's version of this song is an even bigger classic and a more poignant anthem of empowerment. So there we go. Let's advance it.
All right, Andrea, what about you? Where are you coming on this one?
Man, I was really 100% behind Respect. But just thinking about what Derek was saying about Girls Just Want to Have Fun, I knew it was a cover, but I just never knew the original version. I'm going to stay with Aretha. I feel that that's right, is to stay with her. And I love knowing that she recorded the song on February 14th. And I want to know what happened on February 13th to prompt this sort of passionate response. So yeah, I'll stick with Aretha.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying about that. And I actually think the fact that we do not know the original, like nobody realized that Girls Just Want to Have Fun was a cover, makes it actually less powerful as a cover, because it's not like she we're not comparing it to the original. Like, the original is such a non-entity that the song in and of itself, yes, it existed previously, but it is so powerful on its own that it seems like an original, right? Yeah. Whereas the Otis Redding version of Respect was legit a hit. And Aretha was just like, that's pretty cool, but we can do better. And she did. So for that reason, I'm also voting. I think that's unanimous for Aretha. Moving her on to round 3. Next up, it's Hallelujah by Jeff Buckley versus Lady Marmalade by the Moulin Rouge Tarts, I guess is how I will describe this. And Jonny, do you want to go first talking about Moulin Rouge?
Yeah, I definitely we'll talk about it because I was arguing against it in the last round. I will absolutely argue for it in this round. I think what everyone had said about creating this super group, and I will say it was different levels of ascension with this song, with these very people. Much. There was a very much. I mean, I think Pink at the time was probably the least known because she was still pretty new. She'd only been out for about a year. Maya had been out for a few years, although it's harder to kind of justify it, at least nowadays. It's like, oh, who is she? Now it's trying to remember, like, who is Maya? I don't know. Was she in Sister? I don't remember. And I was like, oh no, that's not her.
Isn't it crazy? Because she was everywhere around that. Like she's in Chicago. Like she had a great career, but she just keeps disappearing.
And it went. Her career was like, whoa. That was exactly what happened with her. But this is one thing that it still cracks me up. The hardcoreness of Lil' Kim, because Lil' Kim is, especially if you were a younger gay man, there's how many licks at the time in 2000 you just thought was like, oh, this is so hot, this is so sexy, blah blah, and it's kind of campy too. Sure. But she was dressed up like a prostitute George Washington in the video. And we discussed that.
Redundant. Okay.
So, to this day, you get a group of people, you have 4 or 5, whatever, who will get together and pick everybody's part. I sang this with actually Violencia exclamation point from Dragula season 3, who I'm a friend of, Neon Calypso and Kaya Cristal and Stevie Cyclone, who's the DJ over Club Cafe, and we did this for when we were all together one day, and I did the Missy Elliott part. So you can get a whole crap load of people to sing this in karaoke, and I still think it's a monumental song because it took it to a place which we mentioned in the last bracket, is that it was fresh, and it's 20 years. It is about the same length of time between now and the original what the original version was to where this cover was. So it's been 20 years, and it was actually less than 20 years. This still sounds fresh. You can still hear this, and it's like, yes, it's early 2000s, but it still sounds fresh, and it still gets people going. And I think that there is a little bit of a timelessness that this will have, even though there's some trappings of 2001 in this that you can never get away from. But it's like, God damn it, man, it still is a fresh, fun track that people still get jazzed up about.
So it's funny because I was thinking the same thing. Like, we are now far enough away from this cover than it was from its original that like, where's the 2020s reboot of Lady Marmalade, in which 4 pop stars would be on it? And I can't imagine any of the current pop stars attempting this song. Am I wrong?
You could get Ariana Grande and maybe Doja Cat.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Ariana was the first one to pop in my head too.
Yeah,
But where are the other 2? I mean, Megan Thee Stallion could absolutely do an amazing job on the Missy or the Lil' Kim version. She could actually probably slay it. Like, I can't see Billie. I can't see what's her face, Sour, Olivia Rodrigo. Like, I can't see them doing this. It's so aggressively sexual, and I feel like the modern pop stars are like, that's not really my jam. Like, I'm not gonna put myself out there that way, which I think is a great thing, actually.
Absolutely. Lady Gaga might do it,
but I feel like Gaga's too old. Gaga would be like the auntie.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, I mean, I'm older than Gaga, so I'm like Milton Berle over here.
She'd be the matron Mama Morton. Like, that's what she's going to be.
Pepper my ragu.
Yes.
But, yeah, so with all that being said, I'm here to actually talk about Hallelujah. So I'm going to say this, and I'm going to get shit, because Leonard Cohen is kind of put upon this pedestal as this amazing artist. And if you don't appreciate Leonard Cohen, you're just not interesting enough to really get his artistry. And I think, much like Dylan, he's a terrific songwriter, terrific lyricist. In those ways, he's a genius. But Jesus Christ, listening, I mean, talk about hallelujah, talk about religious, like listening to his version of this song, my God. Just, it's grim and off key. And I know that's deliberate, but it's like, ugh. Like, I don't need the shtick, you know? And Jeff Buckley comes in and he takes everything that's amazing about the core of the song and he turns it into something really not spiritual in like the actual like Jesus way, but it's spiritual in the kind of, it's transformative, right? The guitars in the beginning feel angelic. His delivery has a nuance to it that Cohen's just like a brick, just and I think there's a lot of real artistry on display in this cover that lacks in the original. If I'm just being completely honest, come for me, Leonard Cohen fans, I'm fine. And I agree that what we had said earlier, that most of the covers that have come afterwards, Rufus Wainwright, the Pentatonics version, take the Jeff Buckley version as their inspiration. And there are so many covers of this song, and it is everywhere. Around Christmas time, we did our holiday song one, and people were like, oh, I love that Christmas song, Hallelujah by Pentatonics. I'm like,
Oh, no.
No. It's their original song. Like, that's their song. I was like, no, number one, no, but also it's not a Christmas song. Like,
right.
But they
really isn't.
They really think it is, like literally, and it hits people, right? So I think this is a song that has an incredibly long lifespan. It touches people. The covers, the echoes thereafter keep hitting new generations, and it like slaps them with that like, oh, this is a capital I important song about capital F feelings, right? And for that reason, I think it should advance over Lady Marmalade, even though I said I'm always going to vote for a song about prostitutes, and it's true, but I'm going to put it to a vote. Derek, where are you on this?
I was already going to vote for Lady Marmalade, and then you mentioned prostitute George Washington. Where's that version of Alexander Hamilton? Where's Lil' Kim's version of Hamilton? Is what I want to know.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Hamilton is colorblind casting. Let's get Lil' Kim in that role. She's in her sixth head. Baby needs a new pair of shoes. Let's make it happen.
So yeah, I'm sticking with Lady Marmalade.
Andrea.
I'm sticking with Hallelujah. I love Lady Marmalade, but like Johnny said earlier, it is campy, and I think it's probably the campiest song on this bracket. It is fun. It's a fun song, but I also think of like karaoke nights being infiltrated by bachelorette parties and 4 to 5 drunk women getting up there and singing the song, and that's just too much for me. So I'm sticking with Hallelujah.
So I believe we are currently tied, because I'm going to stick with Hallelujah, because I do think in terms of the overall bracket and the overall importance of the song, like we have other songs that are giving the same energy that Lady Marmalade does here. I believe the next tiebreaker would be Derek. So Derek, are you sticking with Lady Marmalade?
Did Andrea already have her tiebreaker?
Yes, she tiebreaked Whitney.
Then yes, I am sticking with Lady Marmalade.
All right, so we will advance Lady Marmalade to round 3. Next up, it's Proud Mary versus The Power of Love by Celine Dion. And I'm going to have Andrea talk about Proud Mary first.
I just love this cover so much, and I do not love CCR so much. They're one of those bands that like every time I hear that guitar sound and the dude's voice, I'm like, this is about to be a CCR song, and they all kind of sound the same to me.
They do.
And you know, of course, thank you to Black women for making white man's music 100 times better every single time.
Absolutely.
So,
every time.
I mean, she just does such an amazing job with this song, and we've talked about before, everyone knows Tina Turner's version, and then we get, you know, the iconic dance moves with this song, and I don't see how you can't not pick this song in this matchup personally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assigned to be arguing for The Power of Love by Celine Dion here, and I love Celine, but I don't see this as really a matchup. Is anyone here voting for Celine versus Tina? Johnny?
Oh, no.
No, mais non.
Absolutely not.
Derek?
Stares out window, rolls up window. Yeah, it is definitely Tina.
All right, then we will be advancing the Ike and Tina tuna platter to the next round. And now it is the Whitney versus Whitney off. We have I'm Every Woman versus I Will Always Love You. So we're not talking about artists, obviously. We're strictly talking about songs. And so I'm going to go around the horn first and get general consensus. Derek, which one are you leaning toward here?
I'm Every Woman. It's the bombast of the song that kind of gets me.
Okay. I'm going to go to Andrea next.
I Will Always Love You. I believe it is one of the best-selling songs of all time, if not
it is actually,
pretty high up there. Yeah.
Jonny.
Yeah. I think overall, I think the impact, I think we have to look at two things. Which one would I want to listen to? I'm Every Woman. Which has a better impact? I Will Always Love You. So I think I'm gonna go with I Will Always Love You. And I think it's because of just the long-standing impact that this song had on her career, as well as just music after that. So I think I will say it's like, Dolly Parton did have kind of a new renaissance with this song after Whitney's version of it. So you have to give a little bit of deference to that. It's not only it actually put a spotlight onto the original version that a lot of people didn't know, and it's so different. And I think overall, I think I'm going to go with I Will Always Love You, just for the fact of its overall sheer pop impact.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too, and I don't want to go too much into it. Derek, are you going to be real salty?
Oh no.
Okay. Because I hope that life treats you kind. But with that being said, we are going to go to that final four, which at this point I've completely lost track of. I believe we have Respect by Aretha Franklin versus Lady Marmalade by the Moulin Rouge Tarts.
Yep.
And we have Proud Mary by Tina Turner versus I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston. Is that a final four that is primarily women of color?
Yes.
Pretty much, yeah.
I believe so.
I think Pink is the only one.
Pink is the only one. Well, I love it. I love this for us. I love this journey. All right, so we're going to start off with Respect by Aretha Franklin versus Lady Marmalade by, I was going to say by Jonny Minogue, by the...
Hey, some Wednesday nights it has been by me.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go around the horn first. Andrea, where are you going?
I'm going to go with Respect, Aretha Franklin.
Derek.
Aretha, 100%.
Jonny.
Suck it to me.
Suck it to me. It is Respect. So that is a unanimous Respect in the final two. And next it is Tina Turner's Proud Mary versus I Will Always Love You by Whitney Houston. I'm going to start with Derek.
I am sticking with Tina here.
Interesting. Okay. Andrea?
I think in my bracket I have Tina taking it all, but I'm going to switch and go with I Will Always Love You.
Jonny?
I am going with Tina Turner. I'm going with this. She is my favorite artist to have seen live. I saw her twice, in 97 and 2000. If you have never seen her do this live, you can't do it anymore. Because she's retired. It is the song. It is the performance. I can't not go with
it's
this
perfection.
Version. It's perfection.
Yeah, it's perfection.
Yes, going with this.
It is, however, so I'm going to go with I Will Always Love You, and I'm going to tell you why. So we kind of touched upon this before, the immense pop culture power of this song. It was a juggernaut. If you were not alive / aware culturally in the 90s, I don't think you can fully understand. Does anyone happen to have stats on how long this song sat on top of the Billboard charts? I don't know.
I think it was most of 1993. It was.
Yeah.
I think it was. But Bill, I think Bodyguard's soundtrack was on till sometime in 1994 on the Billboard 200. I think this song at least was, I think it was 11, 12 weeks, number one. It was on the chart for most of 1993. I'm not quite sure when it actually dropped off, but yeah, it was even when some of the other songs like I'm Every Woman and Queen of the Night were coming out, it was still on there. So it really kind of even the other works of her own in this entire, and on that soundtrack still had it. So it was amazing that it still was so resonant in that period of time.
And it was kind of a mistake that it even happened, right? Because I don't know if anybody watched the Clive Davis documentary that came out like a year or two ago, but he talks a little bit about this movie. And he said that he initially saw a rough draft of the movie on over like Christmas break, and it had almost no singing in it whatsoever. And he's like, how do you have Whitney Houston in a movie and you have no songs? And he's like, here are some songs that we think would be good. And he sent them over to Kevin Costner. And one of them was I Will Always Love You by Dolly Parton. Mm. They hadn't even recorded the new version of it yet, but he was like, we think this would be good for Whitney. And so like Clive made them inject these songs into the movie. Without those, that movie would have been a nothing burger, right? It would have been a complete flop.
Well, and yeah, and it initially could have been a Madonna project.
Right.
And we would have completely forgotten about it.
But so, like, I'm not going to say that being a hugely successful song makes it the winner. But one of the things I think is important to consider, because this is a cover song debate, right? Not like songs we like the most or songs whose performances we like the most. Even Dolly Parton has said now, like, I Will Always Love You, I may have written it, but it's Whitney's song. She has taken that song and it's hers now. And I love what she's done with it and I honor her. And she's like, every time, I hear the song, every time I hear Whitney's version of the song, it's her. It's not me anymore. That's pretty amazing. When it's Dolly Parton saying, oh, this thing that I created, you've turned it into something even better than I could have done. Dolly Parton saying that, like, come on. And I think if we're talking about a vocal performance, it's true. I mean, you've got to give the like overall like dance and energy performance to Proud Mary. There's no question. But for a vocal performance, this is haunting. I mean, we're talking 30 years after this song. Is that correct? We're now 30 years. Jesus
yeah,
Christ,
it's 30 years.
That's disturbing. God damn it. But like, I don't know if there is another ballad, especially a ballad about longing, that is as successful from a female artist. I can think of a couple from male artists, is successful as this one is. So in my opinion, I do think it is the better cover song, and that's why I'm putting it forward. Tina, no disrespect to Tina Turner. There's not really a wrong decision here. But Jonny and Derek, are you staying with Tina?
Absolutely.
Derek?
Yes.
Okay. With that being said, then that means we have a tie. And Jonny, you're the tiebreaker now.
Oh, big wheels keep on turning.
I love it.
Okay, so we have a final two of Respect by Aretha Franklin, originally by Otis Redding, versus Proud Mary by Tina Turner, originally by Creedence Clearwater Revival. I think it's a great top two. I love this. And I'm going to start, Jonny. Okay, you just got us to this point. Which one are you going with?
I'm going with Aretha. I think these are the top two. Like for me, this is the two that I was like at the end. I'm going with this. The only thing that took me over the top with this is two things. One, just that fact that this song kind of just transcends so many things, and I mentioned this in my initial argument for it. The other thing is that there isn't thankfully Tina has re-recorded Proud Mary where it's not associated with Ike, but it was an Ike and Tina Turner review song initially. So it's like, if you're taking that, then we have to really realize it's like there was a part of he was there. I didn't want to mention it. And again, like I said, best concerts I've ever seen were Tina Turner, and this song was the number one thing to see. But Aretha Franklin, man, it's just she has a way of taking a song and making it so much of her own that she's now like, she was able to sing at the White House, like she was able to sing an inauguration, and she was the Queen of Soul for a reason. It's 2 minutes and 40 seconds of absolute pure joy and power. And I think the one thing that she does is that the collaborative nature of the song that she wrote with her family stands the test of time. It didn't have to be re-recorded. Not that Tina's versions weren't great. It's just that, the original version it is a Franklin Sisters project that they got there. That is something that no matter where you go across the world, they will know that song. So it's going to be Aretha.
All right, Andrea.
I am sticking with Proud Mary because this is a rock song by CCR, and Tina Turner took it back and made it truly a rock and roll song, which, as we all know, Black people invented rock and roll. And I think she is just reclaiming this song as how it should be performed, quite frankly. I mean, obviously, like, props to CCR for writing the song, but Tina did that, and she took it one step further on how rock and roll should feel. So for that, I have to stick with Proud Mary.
Derek.
I am so conflicted right now. Because both of these are fantastic songs, and in other music podcasts, I will completely own up to the fact that I am guilty of putting too much emphasis on the artist rather than the song when it's the song that we're supposed to be talking about. I have this difficulty in disassociating the artist from the song, because quite frankly, like, especially when you're talking about like these two songs, the artists are so synonymous with these songs. I will argue that Respect by Aretha Franklin launched a lot of other people's musical careers in that it inspired them, and especially at the time when it was recorded. That said, I have Proud Mary as my ultimate choice to win this whole thing, and I think I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stick with Proud Mary.
Interesting. I'm 100% on Respect here. I think, again, there's no bad winner here, right? They're both great. And I'm not going to give it a tie. I will not do that. That's the cheap way out. And neither Aretha nor Tina would want that. They would look at me and they would shake their heads and be like, girl. But I feel like Respect, what I love about Respect, and we haven't really talked a little bit about this, is it was a song originally written by a man. And he was basically kind of like, almost like sighing in exasperation, like, oh my God, can you just be nice to me when I get home from work? Because like, I'm tired and I've worked really hard. And then Aretha takes it from a moment. She's like, fuck that shit. I'm not asking you to be nice. I am telling you to be nice. You will pay me respect. And like, coming from a Black woman in the 1960s who was treated very, very badly for years and would be treated very, very badly for years to come, like taking a man's song and flipping it and being like, no, this is my song now. It's like that Captain Phillips meme. Like, I'm the captain now. Look at me. Look at me. Like, Aretha is the captain now, right? And I don't think that same energy is in Proud Mary. Tina transforms the song from a like dopey white dude in mohair vest, like slow boat to China, like keep on turning. Like, she takes
and John Fogerty was from California. He wasn't even from the South.
Right. Like, it is what it is. It's fine, right? Don't get me wrong. It's a fun song. And like, I'll sit there and bop along in my car in my very white way. But like, Tina's just like, she pumped a lot of tane into that song, if I may. And so, but Respect is an anthem, like legitimately an anthem. Could you argue that Proud Mary is? I guess. But like, Respect, like, literally rallies people to this day in a way that Proud Mary doesn't quite do. Does that mean it's a better cover song? I don't know, but I do think it, like, I still come back to this, like, she took a man's song that was kind of just like slowly bitching about how like his woman at home isn't giving him the kind of respect that she wants, and she turned it into like, I am a woman and a person of color, and fuck you, you will respect me. That's powerful, and it continues to echo 60 plus years later. That's my argument. So,
Eric, can I just interject for just a second? Because I want to go back to something like an argument that we had earlier, which was realizing that something was a cover song. I had no idea that Respect was a cover song. And I think a lot of people out there are probably in the same boat because, frankly, Aretha's version is the definitive version. But I do think a lot of people know that CCR did Proud Mary, and that Tina Turner basically, like, made it her own and reinvented it and like continues to like perform the fucking hell out of it. I hear what you're saying. I think that as the title of this podcast is best cover song, knowing that Proud Mary is definitively a cover, that's why I'm sticking with Proud Mary.
Okay. And Andrea, you're sticking with Proud Mary.
Yep, I am.
And so I will not let this end in a tie, and I will not break the tie. So with that being said, Jonny, I hope you will respect me if I switch my vote to Proud Mary, understanding that we were at an impasse in negotiations.
I'm okay with it. It's you know, it wouldn't have been my choice, but I'm totally fine with it. I'm happy with where we go. I think we had a spirited conversation about why.
We did. And, you know, here at the Great Pop Culture Debate, we never, ever do anything nice and easy. So with that said, that is it. Our pick for the best cover song of all time is Proud Mary by Tina Turner. Do you agree with our choice? Do you think more talented podcasters need to completely redo this episode? Let us know your pick by leaving a comment on this episode at greatpopculturedebate.com or yell at us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube. While you're there, make sure that you like and subscribe for more Great Pop Culture Debate content. And if you really enjoyed what you heard, please consider supporting us on Patreon, which can get you access to more exclusive episodes, merch, and the ability to suggest episodes for us to do in the future. Thank you to my panelists. I could never ask for a better version of you. And thank you for listening. Until next time, remember, everyone is entitled to their wrong opinions. Shaka Khan!